Welcome to Podkey PPR, where today the market gets audited before your draft board does. A lot of fantasy analysis sounds confident right up until you ask, what exactly is signal and what is just a story people liked repeating? This slate is really about pricing uncertainty correctly, whether that's A.J. Brown's knee, rookie receiver fear, tight end volatility, or the way rushing props up quarterback value. A.J. Brown is the cleanest example of how a real-life move and a fantasy market move can diverge. The confirmed part is simple. His ADP jumped, best ball rooms got more aggressive, and the Patriots' pass-heavier environment gave drafters an easy ceiling case. The less comfortable part is that the market seems willing to compress multiple risks at once. He's listed at 29. There are knee concerns serious enough that some teams reportedly backed away, and there are still off-field questions hanging around his profile. That doesn't mean the trade was bad for New England. If you believe they're getting a prime Pro Bowl level receiver, the upside case is obvious. But calling it a steal depends on what the medicals really look like and what the actual compensation was, because even the recap framing isn't stable, with reports bouncing between a first plus a third and a first plus a fifth. In Dynasty, the 3-year window framing makes sense. Brown can still be a top 25 asset and also be someone you refuse to price like a timeless cornerstone. Receiver decline after 32 is a real enough pattern that you should care about the back half of the curve now, not after the market does. The suggested benchmark of roughly a 2027 first is useful because it forces the question, are you buying elite production or are you buying the idea that this profile is safer than it is? And for redraft versus best ball, format matters a lot. Best ball can absorb a volatile health profile if the spike weeks hit. Traditional redraft is less forgiving if the market has already priced in the rosy outcome. The market score discussion is refreshing, mostly because it does not pretend to be magic. It's an ADP-anchored baseline tool. It asks what players historically tend to score from a given draft slot, then measures how far above or below that baseline a player actually performed in PPR points per game. That's useful because it spots market disagreement. It is not the same thing as a projection model, and the creators are being pretty explicit about that. The decision not to publish it past round 10 is also a sign of discipline, not weakness. Late rounds are where volatility explodes, roles get murky, and false precision becomes a trap. Same with their plan to use break-even ADP thresholds going forward. That's the right framing. Managers don't need a metric to tell them who is good. They need help identifying when the price is wrong. Zap fits that same ecosystem. The intriguing claim is that rookie wideouts drafted in rounds 5 through 10 with Zap over 90 beat ADP by at least 3 PPR points per game at a 40% clip, averaging about +2 versus baseline. That is meaningful. It's also not a guarantee. The real strength here is reproducibility. The weakness is that no spreadsheet sees coaching trust, role timing, or how a player actually wins on Sundays. That leads straight into the rookie receiver market, where fear may be doing some of the work for you. Names like Jordan Tyson, Carnell Tate, and even Mekhi Lemon are interesting because the price is low enough that you don't need perfection. If they land in favorable roles and they're being drafted in the 4th round of rookie drafts or later, the asymmetry is real. But the reason this can work is not that this class is secretly loaded beyond consensus. It's that the market may be overcorrecting to uncertainty. And in PPR specifically, reception profile matters more than broad prospect aura. That's why ADP gaps among rookie wideouts can create strategy differences that don't show up if you're just ranking talent in the abstract. A high-catch rookie can absolutely function like a cheat code in full PPR, but only if the role supports short and intermediate volume quickly enough. Tight end is still one of the hardest positions to model cleanly, and the reasons are structural. Small samples distort everything. Touchdowns swing weeks. Usage can change with one coaching decision. Even the note that adding raw receptions improved model stability is telling, because rates alone were not capturing enough of the actual role. The 12 personnel trend matters here. If more teams are leaning into two tight end packages, that raises the floor for secondary tight ends and deepens the pool of flex viable options. On player takes, there are different kinds of risk. Sam Laporta has a credible path to 100-plus targets under a new offensive coordinator, which is the kind of volume argument that actually travels. Mark Andrews sounds almost like a pure bet on touchdowns at this point. That's not worthless, but it does make week-to-week stability shakier if the catches stay low. George Kittle is the classic case where efficiency history can hide accumulating fragility. Achilles issues plus Y-axis decline to 4.4 should at least make you ask whether you're drafting the current player or the memory of him. Isaiah Likely's late 2023 stretch at 13.9 PPR points per game shows the upside if role opens up. Darnell Washington is more speculative, but a 4-year, $42 million extension and elite yards per route run suggests the team sees more there than the raw box scores currently show. At running back, the big mistake is pretending risk comes only from talent decline. Christian McCaffrey is still a top scorer, but touch concentration matters. When a player is absorbing that kind of usage near age 30, durability should be a central input, not a footnote. Derrick Henry's outlook being tied to offensive line composition, especially center play, is the kind of context fantasy players often wave away because it's less fun than discussing highlights. But rushing efficiency is heavily ecosystem-driven. A missing piece in the middle can change everything from early down success to goal line reliability. The broader point is that running back volatility is often second-order volatility. Coaching changes, committee behavior, rookie ramp-up timelines, and injuries to teammates create the chaos. That's also why older zero-RB assumptions may need updating. Heavier personnel trends can shift where usable volume lives. Blake Corum makes sense as a buy low because the ceiling scenario is obvious if Kyren Williams misses time. Javonte Williams as a sell high fits the opposite logic, where the market may be too willing to forgive prior knee damage, and fringe names with touchdown equity can matter, but if they don't catch passes, the margin for error is tiny. Quarterback remains the easiest place to find hidden floor if you respect rushing. The historical note is strong. Passers drafted in the 7 to 18 range, who already gave you at least 4 rushing points per game, have more often reached that 21 to 22 point ceiling band than highly drafted pocket passers under 2 rushing points. That doesn't mean every runner is safer than every pocket passer. It means the market may still underprice how much rushing stabilizes fantasy outcomes. So a round 10 swing on someone like Malik Willis is coherent. If you're explicitly chasing that path, you're not betting on polished passing projection alone. You're betting on the fantasy math that comes with movement. In Superflex, Caleb Williams is the opposite kind of puzzle. The upside scenario is huge, but it still depends on enough surrounding talent and enough functional structure to convert that talent into elite fantasy output. One place analysts still tend to understate downside is off-field risk. Brandon Ayuk's legal situation is not just a headline tax. If teams lose incentive to keep or trade a player cleanly and cap math changes, fantasy value can crater fast. Rashee Rice and Jordan Addison are similar reminders that suspension and legal uncertainty are separate negative variables, not tiny tiebreakers behind on-field talent. At the team level, the same discipline applies. Miami clearing massive dead cap and looking like a reset year is more important than whatever isolated summer optimism pops up around one position. Buffalo's coaching transition could stabilize them, but that 10.5 to 12 win band depends on how fast the new structure takes hold. Atlanta's left-handed quarterback room is unusual enough that rep distribution and offensive identity questions are fair, not gimmicky. The through line here is not to become anti-hype, it's to charge the right price for uncertainty. Injuries, preseason setbacks and recovery timelines should move ADP, they just shouldn't move it blindly. A fractured foot, shoulder surgery, a visible knee scare, or a rough return precedent after fibula and ACL issues all deserve conservative assumptions until camp usage says otherwise. And format should keep you honest. Best ball can justify some falling knives and spike week bets. Redraft usually can't. Full PPR can elevate volume earners dramatically relative to half PPR or standard. If one argument is better supported than another today, it's probably this: draft tools are most useful when they tell you where the market is overconfident, not when they pretend to erase uncertainty. That's the board for today. Thanks for listening to Podkey PPR, and keep asking whether you're buying points or just buying a story. This episode was generated by Podkey. Create your own at podkey.fm.